Welcome to the 12 Days of Christmas. Today is day number 5, and our gift for you is Unleash the Masterpiece. Christmas is the most special time of the year, a season full of peace, joy, and love. This is a great time to prepare to make 2016 one of your best years ever. Our special guest today is Ron Jenson. I'm Dr. Joseph Peck, and my passion is creating a movement empowering dreams of millions of people globally through coaching, journaling, and life-changing webinars. Let me briefly introduce Ron, and then he'll get started with his teaching. Ron Jenson is branded as America's life coach, and he spent most of his life working with leaders and professionals around the world. They all have opportunities and challenges professionally and personally, just like you and I do. What has become clear to Ron is that personal stress, navigating work-life balance, learning to resolve conflicts, giving healthy and helpful leadership at home and at work, and really making a difference in people's lives are tough things to do, especially when all the needs are there all the time. So quite frankly, most of us struggle, but that's okay. It's part of the wonder and majesty of life, living with and overcoming the challenges. The good news is that there are skills we can master that can turn our obstacles into opportunities. And Ron is a master at helping you do that. That's what Ron gets to do every morning. He loves the idea of helping someone like you live a vital, healthy, dynamic, full, and abundant, meaningful life, both professionally and personally. And those two are obviously very closely integrated. So most of the people that Ron coaches are successful professionally, but what they need help with is help on the personal side. So we all need help with work-life balance, and it's constantly adjusting. But anyway, Ron, I just want to say welcome to this call. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this broadcast and sharing your powerful message today.
Thank you, Joseph, and it's great being with you and great being part of this 12-day process. I think it's very exciting. I love what you've done and the group you pulled together, and I'm looking forward to share with your team here. What I want to talk to you all about for a few moments right now is the whole concept of our life being a masterpiece. I really believe that that's really our goal while we're here. It's to live out a life that's a masterpiece, holistically. A rich, full, exciting, joyous, peaceful, productive, profitable, dynamic, abundant life that's a masterpiece. And one of the things I love is to be exposed to masterpieces, and like I'm sure you do. And a masterpiece can be a work of art like the beautiful Starry Night that Van Gogh did, a beautiful painting that's world-renowned. It could be a wonderful symphony like Debussy's Clair de Lune, something I could listen to over and over again. What you find about a masterpiece is it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's been thought through, it's a great work of art, and it fills the soul. And that's what our lives ought to do. They ought to become masterpieces that we unleash for ourselves, but also for our family and our friends and our businesses and those around us. So we're filling the souls and the lives of people and giving incredible value back. So in the just a couple minutes we have right now, I want to talk to you about how we can unleash the masterpiece and get you thinking about that as you're looking at the new year. So the way I want to get there is I want to ask you a question, and it's this. Are you successful? Now you're going, okay, am I successful? Hey, I'm on this webinar. I'm part of this process. Yeah, I'm successful. You ought to see how well I'm doing at business or how well I'm doing in different spheres. So let me ask you this from different perspectives. If you're married, what does your spouse say? Are you successful? If you have kids, what do your kids say? If you work with others, what do your colleagues or your partners say? What does your body say? What does your conscience say? Are you successful? By the way, it always gets eerily quiet when I start going down the list and ask people. I've shared this question with people all over the world in leadership events or large conventions I've done, and people start off, yay, and then they start thinking, well, boy, I wonder if my spouse or my significant other thinks I'm successful, or my kids or my friends or my associates? What about my conscience at the end of the day? Am I successful? Well, I ask you that because I want you to think for a minute about success, because authentic success is at the heart of unleashing the masterpiece. You can't get there unless you have the right end in mind to start with. And that's what I want you to think about during the next few days as you're entering into the new year. And that is living a life that has the right end in mind, built around success. So I want to suggest several things to you. First, I want to suggest that what success is not just. I want to suggest to you that it's not just what the culture tends to say, which is what? Power and prosperity and position and prestige and pleasure. Now, don't get me wrong. I love those things. I enjoy a good number of those things, as Joseph does, and many of our friends and associates do. We want you to experience all those. They can be used wonderfully. Power is a great thing used rightly. Prosperity, position, prestige, pleasure are wonderful when they're used rightly. We just don't want you to think that that's all that there is to success. I'm just saying success is not just these things. In fact, if you look at leaders around the world and what they've said about just prosperity, I love what some wealthy leaders say. John D. Rockefeller, who was at one point the wealthiest man alive, said, "I've made many millions, but they've brought me no happiness." And now some of you are saying, "Give me a little of that misery." And I get that, me too. But boy, the more money I tend to generate over time, the more decisions I have to make. That every decision is stressful. That becomes problematic. So boy, I just don't think it's money. Vanderbilt said the care of 200 million is enough to kill anyone. There's no pleasure in it. Again, you may want some of that displeasure, but there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. Henry Ford said, "I was happier when doing a mechanic's job." Of course, the founder of Ford Motors. And then Andrew Carnegie, the great financier, said, "Millionaires seldom smile." And I worked with lots and lots of very wealthy people, many millionaires and above, and they struggle living an authentically successful life like all of us do, because they got so caught up in what got them the power, prosperity, position, prestige, and pleasure, they didn't have time to really focus in on the more important things. In fact, when you think about just money alone, I love the words that were written by author John Steinbeck. He wrote to Adlai Stevenson, who was in the administration years ago in Washington, and he said this. This was a note that came out in the Washington Post. He said, "A strange species we are. We can stand anything God and nature throw at us, save only plenty. If I wanted to destroy a nation, I'd give it too much, and I would have it on its knees, miserable and greedy and sick." Well, I think that's happened to a great extent in America and some other advanced countries around the world. Our problems don't tend to flow out of having too little. Now, you've got to have a survival level of living, that's for sure. But our problems can happen when we get too much, because we become complacent, we become apathetic, we get caught up in lives that don't have great value in them holistically, and that becomes a real problem. And I think a lot of even the prosperity and position and prestige we have as a country in America, and it may be true in your country as well, is based on the fact that people were good at the front end. They focused in on holistic success, a hard work ethic and a sense of commitment and integrity, and treat people with respect, and developing their lives, their inner lives, self-governing. And the net effect is we're experiencing much of the benefit of those, but increasingly I think we're losing it because we don't have the same substance in our lives that often our forefathers did. So I want to suggest success is not just about power, prosperity, position, prestige, and pleasure. In fact, I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of leaders around the world, all of whom had all of those 5 qualities in great measure. And I've asked them the same exit question. I've interviewed them on success and leadership, and I've asked them the same exit question, and that is, at the end of your life, how will you know you've succeeded? Good question. At the end of your life, how will you know you've succeeded? How will you measure it? What will your metrics be? Well, they answered the way we would all answer. By the way, no one ever said all the money I made, though they may have been multi-millionaires and some of them are nearly billionaires. Instead, they said things, well, that's really only money. I remember asking Bunker Hunt one time. He was a great silver leader, he and his brothers, and had had amassed much of the world's silver, a great oil family, and Bunker was then the wealthiest man in the world, worth about $7 billion. And I was interviewing him walking through Epcot Center near Disney World in Florida, and I said, Bunker, he had just, by the way, gone bankrupt because the government came after him because they said he had cornered the silver market, and he and his brother had. I think the rules were changed through a political problem, but bottom line is Bunker went from the wealthiest man in the world to bankrupt. He got to keep his house, which was nice, but I mean, he had some trust in place, but he was bankrupt. And I said to him, what's it like to lose $7 billion? And his response was, Ron, is that how much I had? I said, well, that's what the papers say. And he said, I never counted it. I don't care that much about money. He says, well, how do you feel? He goes, well, I haven't liked going through these Senate committees and having my family act. But he said, it's only money. I'll do fine. That's not the important stuff in life. And he said, the most meaningful stuff to me that I did with my money is I gave it away. And he talked about giving $10 million to a friend of mine for a nonprofit. And he said, my only regret is I didn't give more, because I lost all the rest. Much better to have gone to a great worthy cause like that. He had a great perspective on it. So when I talked to him and hundreds of others, high achievers on success, they all said things like this. How did my kids turn out? What kind of relationship did I have with my spouse? Did I live a vital life mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually? Did I have an impact, a positive impact on the lives of others? Did I have a joyous life, a meaningful life? Did I pass on value into other people's lives? Basically, they said two things. They said, number one, was my life complete? Was it integrated? And number two, was my life one of contribution or a life of impact? Those are the two things. And frankly, everyone that I coach, all these senior level leaders I coach, I always begin with the end of life question. I make them fill this out before we have our first session, and that is, at the end of your life, how will you know you've succeeded? Holistically. And I'm going to help you with that in just a second. Because life's not just about power or prosperity or position or prestige or pleasure. It's really more about living a complete life, winning publicly and privately, living professionally and personally, living publicly and also just when you're alone in the quiet of your own private life. And so it's about being complete, and it's also about living a life of contribution, giving back, making a difference with your life. That's what I want you to be dwelling on between now and as you go into this next year, into 2016. Is your life complete? Is it one of contribution? And I'll give you a couple of questions to help you with that in just a moment. What gets me awake many mornings and gets my juices flowing is really a quotation from Oliver Wendell Holmes, who said, most of us go to the grave, or our grave, with the music still in us. Isn't that true? My passion in life is to try to help people understand what that music is within them, the orchestra within them, the symphony within them, the art within them, and help them turn that into reality. That's what floats my boat, and frankly, I think it ought to float all of our boat to one degree or another, whether it's with our family or friends or professionally. It's finding that music, letting that music come out, but it's also then being able to help others do the same thing. So the key is to identify what authentic success is. I think it's completeness and contribution, not just power, prosperity, position, prestige, and pleasure, and understand that your life was meant to be a masterpiece, a work of art, a living symphony. And that's what I hope and pray for you as you go into this next year. And I'd like to give you a takeaway. You've got a lot of things that you're getting exposed to and being communicated to you during this process. And I'd just like you to think of the question I asked earlier. At the end of your life, how will you know you've succeeded? And I want to urge you to write it out. Literally write that out. Write out a paragraph saying, here's how I know I've succeeded. And once you've done an initial paragraph, I want you then to look at 7 areas of your life. I call them my 7 F's. They're faith, fitness, family, friends, finances, firm, and fun. And by those, faith is your inner life, your spiritual life, however you define that. We all have something at the center of our life, and we worship something, but you need to determine what that is and determine what your course is going to be in developing your inner life, your faith life. Secondly is fitness, your mental, emotional fitness. You want to develop that, your physical fitness. And I put that second, by the way, because that's foundational to everything else. And then it's your family, and then your friends, and your finances. Finances are important. And then it's your firm. That's my F for work, or your occupation, however you monetize your life. And then it's fun. And by fun, I don't mean just ha-ha fun. You ought to enjoy the journey, but it's learning to recreate, to constantly sharpen your saw, as Stephen Covey would call it, to become better and better, to grow, to get space in your life, to enjoy the process and build buffer sections so you're intentionally integrating your life. So completeness and contribution. And the takeaway is ask that question at the end of your life, how you know you succeeded, write it out, ink it, don't think it, as Brian Tracy says, and then think of those 7 areas: faith, fitness, family, friends, finances, firm, and fun. And if you'll do that, think about those and then be intentional about living those out, and we can help you in the days to come. You're going to have a great 2016 and beyond. Great being with you.
Wow, Ron, this was my favorite message that I've heard about living your life for significance. I've really enjoyed this. There's so many valuable tidbits in here. They're more than tidbits, so many valuable lessons. And I liked how you started with the great questions at the beginning about what is success, to someone.
Yeah.
And then helping
Yeah.
people understand that it's not all those P's that you talked about, but instead those 7 areas, having that integrated life. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. This is a great gift to give to people for the 12 days of Christmas. Thank you to each of you for participating in this 12-day journey. We look forward to connecting with you on day number 6. And once again, blessings for authentic success. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye. Thanks, Joseph.